All right. Well, we're going live, everybody. Hey, after a couple minutes of technical difficulties, some of which are going to persist through the session, it seems, because Abby, you are with us. Can we hear you, Abby?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, in audio only. And then Sue's joining us all the way from Australia. So welcome, everyone, to another installment of KloobySnacks. It's Sunday night. We're feeling all right. And it's number 17 tonight. And let me go ahead and update this banner. If you want to join us live in studio to get into the conversation, there's the link right there, tinyurl.com/KloobySnack17. By now, everybody should know that there's 4 baker's dozens in our big old package of KloobySnacks, 52 of them. And we got done with the loving flavored baker's dozen after week 13. And now we're in the second baker's dozen, which is ego flavored. So without too much of a hullabaloo, let's go ahead and review some of the snacks in this baker's dozen. And it started with number 14, surrender is not the same thing as defeat. Usually that snack is paired with the last snack of loving flavor, number 13. Vulnerable is not the same thing as threatened. And then we start with the ego flavored baker's dozen with surrender is not the same thing as defeat. Okay. Then number 15 was ego defense is an emotional fight or flight response. So we've talked about that actually for a couple of weeks, the power of fight or flight and what that means when information comes along that may be different from our sense of self, this automatic nature with which we'll attack or ignore information that contradicts sense of self. So in critical thinking and staying curious, we really have to force a growth mindset. It's not automatic. What's automatic is closed and defensive mindset. So I think that's interesting. And then last week that got us to our judgments are an aggressive form of ego defense. Really calling attention. I really pay attention to, I know earlier in my life, I spent a lot of time like in judgment of others. And I'm not sitting there saying that I don't do it now either, but I'm better at it. I stay curious. I stay compassionate. I stay interested. I definitely decrease the amount of judgments that I'm levying around the world and stay open-minded, even to somebody as polarizing as the president of the United States. You got to stay open and curious, etc. You know, you have your opinions, but you got to stay open, curious, and stay away from this aggressive form of ego defense, right? We want to expand our sense of self rather than just defend our sense of self. So that is the review of snacks. Let me again welcome Sue and Abby. You're here with us. Abby, what do you have to say before we get started tonight? Anything?
No, I'm really sad I don't have a camera. That's kind of it.
Me too. Because is it safe to say like the best part of KloobySnacks every Sunday night is your beautiful face? Is that
that's not crazy to say. It's pretty valid and pretty true. So
all right. So that means that we might want you to do more talking than normal if we can't see your face.
That ever, actually.
Isn't that funny? KloobySnacks just evolve week after week. It gets better and better. How about you, Sue? Do you have any questions or anything come to mind? Anything that you want to share before we get into number 17?
Nothing that specifically comes to mind. Just nice to be here and have a conversation with you both.
All right. Well, then drum roll, please. And what I'll do is I'll screen share and we'll put the waiting is over. Let's put KloobySnack number 17 on the board. It's involved. The first part of KloobySnack number 17, everybody's heard before, I think, right? And you can substitute the word love for laughing, right? You can't love yourself. You can't love others. You can't love yourself. We've all heard that. And now we're starting with you can't laugh at others unless you can laugh at yourself. The dot. Now, this is where the KloobySnack part comes in, and I'll go ahead and you can all see it there if you're watching along. Oh, wait, I'm got to go present. Let me go to share screen. Let me go to, I should say don't show those tips again. And then let me find KloobySnacks, and here we go. All right, so I should be sharing my screen now, and there it is. This is the second part. This is the real KloobySnack part. So you can't laugh at others if you cannot laugh at yourself. And if you love laughing at others, it's probably because you don't love yourself. Abby, take it away.
With no camera. As we covered in the loving flavored KloobySnacks, love is the best adhesive for holding anything together. Well, if loving is the glue, laughter is the medicine. Laughter can come from many things, laughing to break tension, laughing at awkwardness, laughing out of love. There's another type of laughter, though, laughter that comes from insecurity. Laughter that stems from insecurity is what draws the line between laughing with someone versus laughing at someone. Laughter acts as protection, protecting your ego from potential harm. If you designate someone else as the joke in the room, you save yourself from becoming it. Needing a scapegoat is a sign of insecurity. Once you're able to comfortably sit in the hot seat and be laughed at without letting it damage your own self-esteem, then you'll be able to truly laugh with others rather than at others.
All right, pretty brief and pretty succinct. So let me go to you first, Sue. What do you got on this one, if anything?
It's a great lesson, really great lesson. And I would say I've been guilty at times of laughing at others as a form of protection for me, because I feel, for whatever reason, that I don't want to highlight that maybe I don't know what to say, or I'm not quite sure what's been talked about, and I don't want to appear ignorant or whatever it might be. And so it tends to be laughing at someone. And at times it might have actually been out of pure meanness, because I was cheesed off and the opportunity presented itself and I took it. And I own that.
Yeah, let me ask Abigail to jump in here. Abby, what do you got? I heard a physiological reaction. I can't see you, but I can feel you. Go ahead.
You can sense me. Yeah, I think that I've just been very guilty of that too at times. Laughing at others out of meanness, or if somebody else does something embarrassing or something of that sort, and then I'm laughing kind of to like validate myself and be like, oh, I'm not like,
I'm not like them.
It's just like, oh, like seeing other people struggle, or not struggle, but in any vulnerable state, I've always like immediately just like laughed, and then something about that always felt like validating or comforting in some way. And it just, at some point, I kind of just realized like it was just mean. And I think it was really my dad that helped me realize that. And I was kind of like talk about my mom and her little quirks, and I'd be like laughing at it. And I didn't even actually realize I could have been coming off as mean. But my dad was like, why are you like trying to make a joke out of this? And I was like, well, what do you mean? It's just funny. And he's like, is it funny? Or whatever. And then from there I was
or do you feel better about yourself by pointing this out about mom?
And then I was like, wait. Well, at first I was like, no.
By the way, let me jump in here real quick. What I've learned over the years is that people that do this, and we're all guilty, right? But there are some people that do it regularly, and it's their MO, right? And not to mention any names, but Abigail, you and I know you became friends with the daughters of a friend of mine from back in the past, and I used to call him out on the same thing. Yeah. He would intentionally bring up a story about somebody that wasn't there to participate in the story, laughing with, right? And then say, isn't this funny? Isn't that funny? I'm like, well, I don't know. What's funny about that? Screw you, Jeff. Well, no, I mean, like, what's funny about it? Why are you bringing that up? Would the person, if they were here in the room? So I've been dealing with this for a long time, since before you were born. And then when I would start to see it in other people, and by the way, Grandma used to do this. Grandma would bring up, isn't that funny about other people? But she was really just trying to make herself feel by getting us to agree about whatever criticism she had about somebody else. And then that kept the conversation off of herself. Nobody would ask her questions or force her to rethink her decisions or her situations if she was always puppeteering. What happened? Did I lose somebody? Oh, Sue dropped out. Are you still here, Abby?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And then, so I lost my train of thought there, but you understand, like, sometimes things are funny. If somebody's in the, like, and I like what you wrote, your response, like if you can laugh with, and if you can laugh at yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And then the efforts to try to teach you this lesson without triggering a defense mechanism, right?
Yeah.
And then wasn't it maybe interesting? I don't know if you've got recall of this, but like it was a kind of subtle. The timing of it is interesting. If I'll let you tell the story. Hi, Sue. Welcome back. We see you. And I noticed that you're wearing red and black tonight. Go Aztecs. All right. Abby, this came up earlier today with us. We had this exact conversation earlier today when you're like, oh, it's so funny that Brody busted himself. You want to tell that story?
Oh, yeah. Well, basically, I was in the car with my little brother, and we were on our way to rehearsal, and as we were on our way, we realized that the time in the calendar was wrong, and we were actually like 30 minutes late to rehearsal. And immediately my little brother was like, "Oh, let me call mom and tell her that she put the time in wrong." And I was like, "Well, there's nothing that she can do about it now. Like, we don't have to call her right now. Like, let me just focus on driving." And he's like, "No, I need to call her." And then I get home and come to find out that he was not supposed to have his phone with him in the first place. And then by calling my mom, which I advised him not to do, but by calling her, she then realized and like busted him that he had his phone, which he like
Wasn't supposed to have.
he promised he didn't have, he wasn't supposed to have. And I was talking to my dad about it, about how I thought it was so funny that
So funny. That's the thing, right? Go ahead.
but I was like, it's so funny that like he busted himself. And then my dad was like, "Well, it's not funny." And he was like, and then we had a whole conversation about how it's an actual problem. Yeah, no, that was an example from today, but I was like, "Oh, it's so funny." But that wasn't a situation where I was laughing out of meanness. That's kind of just
No, yeah, I didn't, and that's why it was safe to bring it up. It was safe to cause a stand there, because here's the thing: if you really were doing it out of meanness, or really doing it out of like, if it was really vibrating from the place of insecurity, I wouldn't have intervened, because it would have only triggered a true defensive reaction. Because it wasn't coming from pure meanness today, you could hear me when I said, "Well, I don't know if it's funny. I don't think it's funny."
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, okay, well, let me hear more." And you stopped. You're like, "All right, well, let me hear more about this. What happened?"
Yeah.
Oh, and you acknowledge, like, "Oh, yeah, I understand why that's not funny." And then I gave it back to you. I'm like, "Hey, the further away we get from it, the more funny it'll be. But right now, it's not funny."
Yeah.
Right now, it was me watching. It was watching my
It was
son make up stories to try to steal his phone from the own. And I watched him lie to his mom directly. And then, like, I hear what you're saying. Like, he busted himself, but then it goes back to why are you telling me that? I saw what he did. I was involved in the story. I saw the whole thing. So why are you telling me now? Like, what do you need out of this? What's motivating you to engage with me, right?
Actually,
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you knew about him busting himself. That's why I brought it up, because
Right, yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
it was funny, but
Yeah, so the thing is, Sue, and I, now that we've got a little bit from Abby, let me come back to Sue and string the pearls, right? This is what we want KloobySnacks to do. We want to make it easy and fun to look within. And here we are, right? Two, serious adults and one on our way, right? A couple months left, Abby,
Yep.
right? We're able to comfortably look within and admit when we have screwed this one up. Right? We are able to maybe apologize to self and the universe when we have been guilty of this ego defensive tendency that we all might, succumb to laugh at others for the wrong reasons rather than laughing with, which starts with laughing itself, right? And so what a soft and lovely and sweet and, bite-sized and delicious way to actually kind of raise our own hand and be like, "Oh yeah, wow, I have laughed at others for the wrong reasons." And it might have been for the purpose of feeling good in the moment, but in retrospect, that doesn't feel so good. And what are the alternatives? And of course, if you're out there watching a recording of this, the alternatives are waiting for us in coaching sessions. And if you want to, join the arena and get more content, or if you want to sign up for 2 complimentary coaching sessions, and you want to talk things through and build these soft skills of critical thinking and communication and on and on, we can do that, right? But we're only scratching the surface in these Sunday night sessions with a motivational quote, Abby's response. But look what it does for us adults here, Sue, to raise our hand and kind of apologize to the universe a little bit, right?
So true. So true. Yeah.
That's it? That's all you got? Is so true? No, all right. Hey, Abby, what about you?
I need more of a prompt. That was
okay. What else might you have to say about either the macro concept of making it fun and easy to look within, right? Making it easier to be a little bit more vulnerable to love, like we covered in the first Baker's Dozen. Now we're checking ourselves. We're checking ourselves, right? In ego flavored, right? So go ahead. And we started with this notion of, hey, surrender is not the same thing as defeat, because guess what? Your ego is going to be challenged for 12 more weeks, right? And then we make sure we introduced what is ego defense. It's an automatic tendency to defend oneself, which we have to be aware of as we get closer and closer and closer to re-examining our own egos to create growth rather than fix. But what do you have to say, Abby?
Well, this is actually I just asked you to prompt me with the question, and now I'm actually answering something that you did not ask, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What I was gonna say was that I think that back to the whole like the laughing thing, the KloobySnack itself. I think that once you're able to laugh at yourself and yeah, once you're comfortable with laughing at yourself, I think it's weirdly it's comforting. And I think it actually helps with the insecurity and being able to like when you mess up, not take something so seriously, or when you do something embarrassing to laugh at yourself with others as they are also laughing with you. I think that helps to alleviate any insecurity or embarrassment or anything that comes from situations like that.
Like when I burn the popcorn in the microwave, like I try not to intervene. I try not to intervene too much in my family's, rightful desire to laugh at me.
Okay, wait, you left out some you microwaved the popcorn. He microwaved the popcorn with the plastic wrap still around it.
Oh
yeah.
no!
That was So I got to laugh at myself real quick. Now here's my feedback on that. By the way, first of all, I'm laughing at myself.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting dynamic. It's really important to pay attention to the vibrations of it, right? Because sometimes, right, like what you just said, Abigail, there's a real health, a real magic, a real breakthrough that comes when we find ourselves able to laugh at ourselves. One of them is that we don't feel the need to laugh at others so much, and then we're not so ego defensive when others laugh if we're part of the laughter, right? But here's the vibration that we need to listen for, and I've been accused of, and I feel I'm guilty of this at times as well, is when the desire. Here's the thing: there's a difference between an ability to laugh at ourselves and a desire or an MO to laugh at ourselves. So if I laugh at myself first, nobody else can. Then it makes it harder for everybody else to pile on. So there's a continuum here where it gets to an unhealthy part where it becomes self-deprecation. Where if we initiate laughter at ourselves, if we're always going out of our way to laugh at ourselves or seeing everything as an opportunity to laugh at ourselves because we're afraid of being laughed at before we can laugh at ourselves, that's a little vibration that we want to pay attention to as well. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I would agree in a sense. And the story that comes to mind for me is I'm the eldest of three, and my younger brother and sister always used to gang up on me growing up. I would take things on board, but in later years, and I think this is where it becomes almost healing, is that whenever it comes up, I can now laugh at it and go, hey, I know I was a sitting duck because I'd react. So of course you're going to keep giving me a hard time because I gave you ammunition. I was this silly twit that that made it easy for you guys to bait me and make fun of me, but that came out of my own security. But I think to your point, Jeff, is because I can laugh at it now, we can actually talk about it and go, and maybe from their perspective, they can go, yeah, it wasn't probably the nicest thing we were doing, but I added fuel to the fire because I was reacting. But now as adults, we can laugh about it. And go, well, okay, what do we learn from it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that I've observed, and I think that yeah, I mean, I like what you're saying there because this is what I said to Abby. I said, hey, Abby, the further away we get from it, the funnier it'll be, but not yet, right?
Yeah.
Like, quote unquote, too soon, right? And so when we're looking back at childhood stuff or growing up stuff, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens in our house that's like not funny at all. But when you have kids, some of the stuff we experienced will be really funny that wasn't funny. Like when you have kids, a lot of stuff that wasn't funny becomes funny, right? Yeah. And that's the only thing that parents can do. Wait till you have kids. Whatever, mom and dad. But there's this other thing about self-deprecation. There's this other where laughing at ourselves can go too far, right? We want to be able to laugh at ourselves. We need to get comfortable with others laughing at us so we can create the with rather than the at, right? But then I'm just trying to establish this that can go too far too. Like laughing at ourselves can become a defense mechanism to trying to preempt anybody else from making fun of us at all. Like if we lead, and I've experienced that. I've seen that pattern in people where, and I remember, the first time I recognized it, there's a particular person I have in mind. I'm like, God, that's brilliant. Why don't you just laugh at yourself first? And now everybody's disarmed. And then, as I've matured, I'm like, where is that really coming from? It's equally the constant initiation of laughing at oneself, I think, comes from the same place of a constant initiation of laughing at others. I think it's almost the same thing. It's an insecurity. So I think it's a fascinating conversation. What else, Abby? Questions or comments? Because you can ask questions too, Abby, if they come to mind.
Well, that's a lot of pressure. I don't know. I agree with all of this, and I agree with the being able to look back and laugh at something after some time has passed. And I know that me and AJ do that a lot, especially since we've grown a lot closer recently, and being able to laugh at a bunch of different things that we probably didn't find funny, and you guys probably didn't find funny when we were younger. I think it's fun. And also, I've had some friendships recently that have rekindled that had like ended badly in the past, and I've been able with these people to like laugh about these things, which is, it's nice because there's certain like arguments that have been had or friendships that have ended that like have that there's been so much like tension just revolving that, but then coming back to it months later and being able to just laugh with these people and laugh at these things that happened that were so serious to us at one point in time, but then after time has kind of passed, it's like we're able to just laugh about it now, which has been nice and very healing.
I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, because among all of these like quote unquote friends that you had where you went through your stuff, and everybody goes through their stuff in high school, whether it's, people splinter because of the degree tracks they want to pursue, or some people stay in sports because they can keep playing at the next level, while other people are like, hey, there's no way I'm playing in college, so I'm going to figure something else out. And there's stresses and anxieties and moving parts, and there's a lot of reasons that friends come and go, right? And some of the ones that go, they just, hey, let them go, right? But there's certain friends that you want to put the effort into rekindling. There's certain efforts that certain friends that mean so much to you. Some of there's peripherals, and then there's cores, right? And what I want to ask you, like it's like a lot of weeks when we do the KloobySnack thing, I talk about how healing it is for me to in our relationship, and some of the things I see you taking ownership. I see you, I don't like to use this word, but admitting, things, right? Which, it is flirting with, the admitting bone's connected to the I'm sorry bone. And I'm not sitting here that you're saying that you're apologizing to your dad, but I feel contrition, I feel remorse, I feel acknowledgement, I feel evolution, I feel ownership, I feel responsibility coming from you throughout this entire project and as we read each week. So now my question for you is, have you like, I it almost sounds funny to ask, but have you like apologized to any of your old friends for any of your behavior without expecting an apology in return? Just saying, you know what? Hey, I'm sorry, and I like you said, has it gotten like that, or is it just an unspoken understandings, or do you guys sense each other's maturity? How does that work?
Yeah. So, for some context, what's it called? I was part of this huge friend group, and one of these girls in this friend group I had known since I was 2,
right.
And she was like part of the family, and we were like completely inseparable. And then when this whole friend group fallout happened, she went one way and I was the other. And we didn't talk for months. But then this year, she's in 2 of my classes, and we kind of started just talking again. And then, funny enough, we're both on the school newspaper, and she wanted to write an article about KloobySnacks when it published. So then it was nice, and it was so cool because she already is so familiar with me and the family and everything. And it was really nice being able to kind of talk to her. And when she would ask me about certain KloobySnacks or certain things I've learned, and a lot of my answers were kind of targeted towards the friendship type stuff. It's kind of like unspoken, but there hasn't really been any direct conversations about any apologies on either side, but it's kind of like an unsaid apology. And it's really nice to not approach it with any tension or have this like confrontational conversation where it's like, I want you to apologize for this or take ownership for this. It's just been nice to kind of laugh about the things that have happened and reconnect. But there is at the same time the rest of this group I'm still not speaking to, and I have no desire to. But
right, you don't have to make that effort with
Yeah.
everybody, right? Some people,
Yeah.
quote unquote, should go, right?
Yeah,
But I'm interested in your new toolbox.
Yeah, but with this
and your ability to use it on the ones that matter. Right?
Yeah, and I think that I don't know if it's the KloobySnacks that did it or just what, but a few months ago, if I had talked to this girl, I don't know what would have happened, but it would not have ended up in her wanting to interview me or talk to me at all, actually. But I think that I have some new maturity, I'd like to say, and I'm able to laugh at these things that happened. And at one point, when all of this friendship breakup stuff was happening, it felt like the end of the world. And now we go back and her and I, because we have 2 of our classes together, we'll just laugh about it and laugh about our old, you know what I mean? And it's so back to the whole laughing thing. It is nice when you're able to.
It was, I just wanted to know, as your dad, I want you to know that it was like you kind of know, you see me more than you used to see me. You know more about me, right? It was hard to watch you go through that, knowing everything I know and knowing that, hey, it probably feels like they, and that was dumb and this is stupid and that's why, and they like, but now I know you have an ability to look within and own whatever you contributed to that co-authored friend fallout, right? A friend fallout is always co-authored, but when it's most difficult without the benefit of the growing up that you've done in the past 6 months, right? I know this old Abby, when you were stressed and freaked out, you know what I mean? Not freaked out, but like, I just have experienced that it's everybody else's fault. Nothing's my fault, Abby. I've experienced that person. And if your friends were experiencing that person too, I've been fascinated with who's worth the effort to rekindle and what application of the new tools that you've got that have been helpful. And is KloobySnacks like, and now can, maybe preempt a lot of stuff, in the future. But I think that was an interesting conversation, and I'm glad to be able to have this talk with you, because I didn't know how to help out at the time, but it was just really, really rewarding for me to see you rekindle with that particular friend, because I know that that's core for you.
Yes.
And cheers to the new tools and cheers to the KloobySnacks, crumb-for-crumb.
Yeah.
Sue, do you have any feedback on that story? You heard, Abby will talk about a couple stories tonight. You're a great storyteller, by the way. Sue, any feedback on that particular anecdote from Abby before I get into last call?
Yeah. Just to say, I think that's.
Sorry, did you hear that? I couldn't decline the call.
Yeah,
it wasn't declining. My whole computer is something.
Half the world heard that. Okay, go ahead.
I was making sure the listeners are paying attention.
I think, Abby, that is so powerful to be able to, for one, decide that this is a friendship that matters, that you are okay with letting go of stuff that, for whatever reason, is now not as important as what maybe it was at the time, and to laugh at situations without having to go back and re-dissect them. And I think that's, we don't have to, and I'm thinking some of my own friendships. I've got some women in my life that I've been friends with now for over 40 years. Mm-hmm. So they're ladies I went to school with. So, and I think that's part of it, is that you let go of what's not important. You laugh at situations. It's maturity, sure. And there's varying degrees of who's got what tools in their toolbox. But I am so appreciative of the work that I've done with your dad over the last 5 or 6 years, because it's helped me enormously to deal with stuff that, golly, 10 years ago even, I might still be hanging on to. And trying to analyze. And I think that's a big thing. Because you can laugh at it, you don't give it unnecessary energy. You can be light with it and go, okay, yep, it was there. It's okay. Wasn't great, but hey, what's the important stuff?
Mm-hmm. I think that this is something that my dad has taught me, but I don't think that he wasn't trying to teach me it in this way, or I don't think really trying to teach me anything, but he always, when we were working on this book, Dad, you always like talk about like how you were going through the KloobySnacks on your own, and you kept saying like that you were too close to it to be able to see what was worth putting in the book or what wasn't, or what was really good and what was not as good. And you just kept using the term that you were too close to it. And I think about that a lot, but in a completely different situations where it's like if I'm having an argument or find myself upset about something, it's like, is this really worth being upset over? Or like, am I just, you know what I mean? Am I too close to it? And then oftentimes I'll go back and rethink about these things that I was so upset about, and also like, again, like seemed like the end of the world at the time. And I'm like, that was really never that serious. And I was just too close to it. So I think about that a lot. And I think that once you realize that, like, I don't know, a lot of these things that I think that, well, for me at least, I find to be so serious and they matter so much, like they really aren't. And it's once I realize that I can go back and laugh about me being so upset about it, or about how everything kind of happened. But I think that the whole, like, the concept of being too close to something to really see it clearly, that's I've learned that from you, and I don't think you ever really, that was never really your intention, but I do think about that a lot.
Well, let me just can I just do a blanket intention? A blanket intention. I want you to know everything I know, because I want, I wish I could just press a button, and go transfer, download, right? So but these things, these lessons that we're learning together, this journey that we're on is special. And for me, the too close to it was like, well, what am I trying to do here? Right? Is this part of the Get a Clue in 52? Is this professional? Am I going to do this? And once the closer you got to being on board, I didn't care about anything more than this opportunity that you created for us to have what we have. Everything is in service to the daddy-daughter relationship, my ability, this opportunity you're giving me to, like, let me in, and to let me, like, do you know how amazing it is for me? Like, I try to keep my shit together. You know, it's like, Dad, I think you taught me this. What? Like, you have any idea? That's like, and so, that for me, that's become number one. But there's so many other things happening here with KloobySnacks. It's really, and here we are 17 weeks in, like, we're moving along now. We're almost a third of the way done, right? So, well, that's just about a third of the way done. And so this little run that we're on, this year of live streams, it's going to be over before we know it. You're going to be in New York before we know it. Yeah. But it's just like really comforting for me to know that before you go, you're able to laugh at yourself. You're not as in love with laughing at others. You are able to recognize things your dad has taught you. You even say, I don't know if this was your intention or not. Well, be clear, right? I intend to love you in every and all ways that I possibly can. You're my daughter. And that's that. So that too close to it lesson included, even if I didn't cite it specifically, all of it. And it's just a thrill to do this every week. So, having said that, let me just open it up to drum roll, please. Last call. Last call tonight for comments, questions, jokes, riddles, limericks, haikus, or expressions of gratitude.
I have nothing. I don't think.
All right. Okay. Sue, anything from you?
I'm grateful to be part of your conversation as father and daughter, and I think that's very precious. Yeah. Thank you. All right. My last call is this. I was at a networking event the other night, and I remember at the beginning of the year when the book came out, right? I was so, like, I mean, it's still special every week, but I'm still
Like I'm still emotional about this, like every week, right? But in January, I'm like, oh my God, it's here. I have it in my hands. We went to number one. My daughter's about, and like I would go to these networking events in early January, right? And I'm supposed to introduce myself, like Jeff Klubeck, and what do I do for a living, and how can and I was befuddled. I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm a little out of sorts today. I'm supposed to introduce myself, but all I can tell you is that I wrote this book with my daughter. And I was like totally willing. Like I felt like I was embarrassing myself because I didn't have my shit together on a normal elevator pitch, what you're supposed to do among my provisors group, etc. I mean, I tried to make it work. I tried to weave it in. And then, I remember Dr. Seuss, who says, those that mind won't matter and those that matter don't mind, right? I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. I don't care. Like there's nothing more important to me than this project with my daughter right now at this phase of my life. So if I take a couple steps back in my progress on networking, or if somebody in this group doesn't understand what I really do for a living, I don't care. I'm going to wear it on my sleeve and I'm going to be vulnerable and be myself and come what may. And so I had my tail between my legs a little bit, wondering. And so I was at this networking event the other night, and I meet this woman, and I'm going to give a shout out, Betty the banker, as she's known, even though she's shifting a little bit in the core services that she offers, but she's a really sweet lady. She comes up to me the other day at the networking event, and she's like, hey, you're the guy that wrote the book with your daughter. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, I remember I was at 2 groups when you introduced that. Oh, that's so sweet. And I've been thinking about you because my daughter, and it can be tough. And I got 2 kids, and it's, and basically, like, without, even though you don't know at a time, and I'm ego defending myself and being self-critical about how this sounds, I was like encouraged. I have the faith, like just stay forward with the message, and it lands. The right people are going to hear it. And that's my next call. Is like, I'm going to start inviting people more and more aggressively to come on into these live streams with us, get in here and give us your take. And how would you apply this? And tell us a story about you and your kid, or whatever the case may be. I mean, if you're out there watching a recording of this right now, the live stream as it gets posted online, you are always welcome to join us in studio. Sure, it's video. Sure, it's being spread out. But Abigail's joining audio only. If you only want to be audio only because you don't want your face on, I get it, right? These are vulnerable conversations that we're having, but they're real. And boy, does the world need it. I'm still a fan of authentic intelligence, and I think that we're cooking it up every week on KloobySnacks. What do you guys think about my last comment here?
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay. Retweet.
Right. Nope, it's settled then. We'll do this again next week then. All right, everybody. All right, KloobySnacks is coming to a close for tonight. It's a treat every week. Hopefully we'll get the Abigail, maybe we'll get on a half hour early and try to troubleshoot the camera thing to make sure that you can get your beautiful face back on the live stream next week, because it really is the best part of these sessions, is watching your facial reactions and your when you're thinking, when you're coming up with something to say, when you're smiling, when you're storytelling. You always glow, Abigail, and you make the world a better place. And that's all I've got for tonight. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.